Power is one of the most misunderstood forces in human life. Most people think power belongs to politicians, CEOs, celebrities, or wealthy individuals. Yet the truth is far more intimate. Power exists in every conversation, every relationship, every workplace interaction, and every social encounter. It shapes who speaks and who listens, who influences and who follows, who controls the direction of events and who merely reacts to them. The Power Gap. 15 Laws of Psychological Dominance explores the invisible currents that govern human behavior. It reveals that dominance is rarely about physical strength or open aggression. Instead, it is often rooted in perception, emotional control, confidence, and the ability to influence how others think and feel. The book begins by challenging a common belief that power comes from force. In reality, force is usually a sign of weakness. Truly powerful people rarely need to shout, threaten, or demand obedience. Their presence alone influences the room. They understand human psychology deeply enough to guide situations without appearing controlling. One of the central lessons is that perception creates reality. People do not respond to who you truly are. They respond to who they believe you are. A person who appears confident often receives opportunities before someone who is equally talented but uncertain. This can feel unfair, yet it is a reality of human nature. Imagine walking into a room full of strangers. One individual speaks calmly, maintains steady eye contact, and moves with purpose. Another fidgets, apologizes frequently, and seeks approval. Even before a single meaningful conversation occurs, assumptions are already being made. The first person is perceived as competent and influential. The second is viewed as less powerful. The book explains that psychological dominance often begins with mastering self-image. Before others can believe in your authority, you must believe in it yourself. Confidence is contagious because humans naturally seek certainty in an uncertain world. People gravitate toward those who appear grounded and decisive. Another profound law focuses on emotional control. Most individuals live as prisoners of their emotions. They react impulsively when criticized, become defensive when challenged, and lose composure under pressure. Powerful people understand that emotions are valuable signals but dangerous masters. The ability to remain calm during chaos creates an enormous psychological advantage. When others panic, the calm individual becomes the center of gravity. People instinctively trust those who demonstrate emotional stability because stability suggests strength. The book describes moments where a single calm voice can influence an entire group. During crises, the person who remains composed often becomes the unofficial leader, even without a formal title. This demonstrates that dominance is not always granted by position, it is earned through behavior. Another key theme explores silence. Most people fear silence because it creates discomfort. They rush to fill empty spaces with explanations, justifications, and unnecessary words. Yet silence possesses remarkable power. When used intentionally, silence creates mystery. It encourages others to reveal more information than they intended. It shifts attention toward the silent individual because humans naturally seek resolution to uncertainty. The authors explain that the strongest negotiators often speak less than their counterparts. They listen carefully, observe emotional reactions, and allow silence to work on their behalf. While others rush to prove themselves, they gather information. This law teaches a difficult but valuable lesson. Influence often comes not from speaking more, but from speaking with greater precision. The narrative then explores the psychology of scarcity. Human beings value what appears rare. This principle affects everything from luxury brands to personal relationships. People who constantly seek attention often receive less respect. Conversely, those who maintain healthy boundaries and do not desperately chase validation appear more valuable. Scarcity increases perceived worth because humans associate rarity with importance. The book warns against becoming too available. Constant availability can unintentionally reduce perceived value. Psychological dominance often requires creating space that allows others to appreciate your presence rather than taking it for granted. Another powerful chapter focuses on attention. In the modern world, attention is one of the most valuable resources. Every company, platform, and influencer competes for it. Those who control attention often control outcomes. The book explains that dominant personalities understand how to direct focus. They know when to highlight certain issues and when to redirect conversations entirely. They understand that people rarely remember every detail of an interaction. Instead, they remember what captured their attention emotionally. This law encourages readers to become more intentional about where they direct both their own attention and the attention of others. Attention determines perception, and perception shapes reality. The discussion then moves towards social status. Humans are deeply sensitive to status, even when they deny it. Throughout history, status influenced survival, access to resources, and social acceptance. Modern society may appear different, but the underlying psychology remains remarkably similar. The book emphasizes that status is often communicated through subtle signals rather than obvious displays of wealth. Calm confidence, competence, emotional control, and independence frequently signal higher status than expensive possessions. People instinctively observe these cues. They notice who seeks approval and who grants it. They notice who appears comfortable in their own skin and who constantly seeks validation. One of the most fascinating insights concerns uncertainty. Human beings dislike uncertainty because it creates anxiety. Consequently, people naturally follow individuals who provide clarity and direction. This explains why decisive leaders often attract followers even when their decisions are imperfect. Certainty feels safer than confusion. The book argues that dominance frequently emerges from the ability to provide a sense of direction. People want someone who can navigate complexity and offer a clear path forward. However, the authors also caution against false certainty. Genuine confidence is rooted in competence and self-awareness. Arrogance, by contrast, is often a mask for insecurity. The distinction between confidence and arrogance becomes a recurring theme throughout the book. Truly powerful individuals do not need constant reminders of their superiority. They are secure enough to remain humble. Another law examines the strategic use of unpredictability. Human beings are creatures of habit. We become comfortable when we can predict others' behavior. Yet, predictability can also create vulnerability. When someone is completely predictable, others learn how to manipulate them. They know which buttons to push and which patterns to exploit. The book suggests that maintaining a degree of unpredictability can preserve influence. This does not mean being erratic or dishonest. Instead, it means avoiding rigid patterns that make your behavior easy to control. People tend to pay closer attention to individuals they cannot fully predict. Uncertainty naturally increases psychological engagement. The discussion then shifts toward boundaries. Many people struggle with boundaries because they fear rejection or conflict. They say yes when they want to say no. They tolerate disrespect to avoid discomfort. Unfortunately, weak boundaries often invite further disrespect. Psychological dominance requires protecting one's time, energy, and values. Boundaries communicate self-respect. They tell others how you expect to be treated. The book argues that every strong relationship depends upon clear boundaries. Without them, resentment gradually replaces respect. One particularly emotional chapter explores the connection between power and self-worth. Many individuals spend their lives seeking external validation because they secretly doubt their own value. This creates a dangerous dependency. When self-worth depends entirely on external approval, others gain tremendous influence over your emotions. Praise elevates you. Criticism destroys you. The authors encourage readers to develop an internal foundation of worth that remains stable regardless of public opinion. This is not easy. It requires confronting fears, insecurities, and past experiences that shaped self-perception. Yet the reward is enormous. Individuals who derive confidence from within become significantly harder to manipulate. Another law focuses on social proof. Humans often determine what is correct by observing what others believe. This tendency explains why trends spread rapidly and why popular opinions can become self-reinforcing. Dominant individuals understand social proof and use it carefully. They recognize that people are influenced by consensus, reputation, and perceived popularity. However, the book also warns against blindly following the crowd. True power sometimes requires standing alone when necessary. History repeatedly shows that transformative leaders often began as outsiders whose ideas challenged conventional wisdom. The narrative becomes especially compelling when discussing fear. Fear is one of humanity's most powerful emotions. It can motivate action, inspire caution, or create paralysis. Many forms of manipulation rely on fear. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of exclusion, fear of uncertainty. Psychological dominance requires understanding fear rather than being controlled by it. The book argues that courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is the willingness to act despite fear. This distinction changes everything. People often wait for fear to disappear before taking action. Yet fear rarely disappears completely. Growth occurs when action becomes stronger than hesitation. Another deeply insightful chapter examines influence through empathy. At first glance, empathy may seem unrelated to dominance. In reality, it is one of the most powerful forms of influence. People reveal themselves through their emotions, desires, frustrations, and dreams. Those who genuinely understand others gain extraordinary insight into human behavior. Empathy allows individuals to anticipate reactions, identify motivations, and build meaningful connections. It transforms influence from manipulation into understanding. The authors emphasize that the most effective leaders are not necessarily the smartest people in the room. Often, they are the individuals who understand people most deeply. The book then explores the importance of reputation. Reputation functions like psychological currency. It shapes expectations before interactions even begin. A strong reputation opens doors. A damaged reputation creates obstacles. The fascinating aspect of reputation is that it often operates independently of objective reality. People respond to stories, impressions, and collective beliefs. This means every action contributes to a larger narrative about who you are. Psychological dominance requires consistency because trust emerges from predictable integrity. When words and actions align repeatedly, credibility grows. Another powerful lesson centers on patience. Modern culture celebrates speed, but many forms of power require patience. Impatient individuals often reveal their intentions too early. They chase immediate gratification and sacrifice long-term influence. Patient individuals understand timing. They know when to wait, when to observe, and when to act. Like skilled chess players, they think several moves ahead. Their restraint creates opportunities that impulsive people never see. The authors describe patience as a force multiplier because it transforms ordinary decisions into strategic decisions. As the book approaches its final chapters, it examines the relationship between power and purpose. Many people pursue power for superficial reasons. They seek admiration, status, or control. Yet these motivations rarely provide lasting fulfillment. True power becomes meaningful when connected to a larger purpose. Without purpose, dominance can become empty. With purpose, influence becomes transformative. The most respected leaders throughout history were often driven by visions greater than themselves. Their influence extended beyond personal gain because it served a broader mission. The final law ties all previous lessons together through self-mastery. The greatest battle is not against competitors, critics, or rivals. It is against oneself. Every insecurity, fear, impulse, and limitation creates an internal struggle. External dominance means little without internal control. The book concludes with a powerful reflection. The strongest individuals are not those who dominate others through intimidation. They are those who have mastered their own minds. They understand their emotions without becoming enslaved by them. They establish boundaries without becoming cold. They project confidence without arrogance. They influence others without manipulation. Psychological dominance, in its highest form, is not about making people feel smaller. It is about becoming so grounded, disciplined, and self-aware that your presence naturally commands respect. In the end, the power gap. 15 Laws of Psychological Dominance reveals that power is not an external possession waiting to be acquired. It is an internal force waiting to be developed. Every interaction becomes an opportunity to practice self-control. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to strengthen character. Every setback becomes an opportunity to build resilience. The book leaves readers with a profound realization. The gap between powerful people and everyone else is often smaller than it appears. The difference is not always intelligence, wealth, beauty, or luck. More often, it is mindset. It is the willingness to understand human nature, master emotions, communicate with intention, and act with confidence even in uncertain circumstances. Those who learn these lessons begin to see the world differently. They recognize invisible dynamics hidden beneath everyday interactions. They stop surrendering control of their emotions to external events. They become more deliberate, more resilient, and more influential. And perhaps most importantly, they discover that the highest form of dominance is not control over others. It is control over oneself. When a person achieves that level of mastery, they no longer chase power. Power naturally follows them wherever they go.